Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nancy Newton, and I am a program manager with TCP Software. And I'm joined by Kelsey McCarty. She's one of our solutions consultants. We are here to walk you through Aladtec, which is one of TCP's leading employee scheduling solutions for public safety agencies. Aladtec was created specifically for public safety agencies, just to meet the demanding needs of 24/7 coverage. Just a little bit about TCP. TCP has been around for over 30 years, providing employee time and attendance and scheduling solutions to millions of users every day. Other solutions that we offer are Time Clock Plus, Humanity, Schedule Anywhere, and InstaSub. And we meet the needs of our customers by providing innovative software and hardware designed to help administrators monitor and schedule employees, to manage labor costs, and reduce compliance risk. So let's get started. Just so you know, the webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the recording. We're going to actually be going through today the member database, and this is what Kelsey's going to take you through everything here. All what the member database can do for you, messaging through there. We'll talk about the schedules, the different views there are, how to get somebody on the schedule, submit time off. We have a whole section of forms, and they're customizable forms where we have over 200 pre-made forms already there for you. They are actually all derived from our customers and what they currently use. And you can actually, start with one of those forms and make changes to it, or you can start from scratch and build your own forms. And then, of course, the different reports that we have too, in order to get all that information that you're putting in there and what you want to do to get out of it. So, and we do, of course, have question and answer time. If you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A tab that's on your bar, I guess, for lack of a better word, and we'll get those answered for you. And so if you, well, I guess that's it. If you have any questions, please put them in there. So Kelsey, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'll stop sharing my screen so you can take it over.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Nancy, for the intro. I'm going to pull up my screen here for everyone. So as Nancy mentioned, my name is Kelsey. I'm a solutions consultant here with TCP. Been working in the Aladtec space for a few years now, so I've seen a little bit of everything. There's going to be a great degree of flex available in this system to accommodate needs for everyone. So when we're talking small volunteer fire departments, all the way up to big Department of Corrections, anything that falls in that public safety space, this is going to be a very scalable product that'll be flexible enough to meet the needs for different schedule structures and different functions across different departments. So I did want to give just kind of a brief overview of some of the system functionality here. We do have lots of different functions and features. The product is available in tiers. So you will have the opportunity to pick tiers that contain the services and features that are going to be relevant and necessary for you. But that can really cross the gamut of not only just employee scheduling, but there's going to be opportunities to leverage things for personnel management, for things like tracking member information. There's going to be certification and license tracking functionality tied there. We'll carry some reporting tools to get access to your data. As Nancy mentioned, we do have a very robust library inside of the system for forms. So there'll be opportunities to customize existing forms or create your own from scratch. And we're going to provide communication tools throughout this product. So one of the #1 things we hear from people is, it takes me so long to get a hold of my staff. If it's filling shifts or trying to find coverage for special events or extra special duties, giving you tools like shift coverage alert paging, as well as mass messaging and some other functions like read receipt messaging will be an option as well. We're also going to have some additional modules that can be added on to supplement some needs here. So we do have an available web-based time clock. There is a payroll module that can assist with reporting on hours, as well as some additional features for things like managing time off accruals and those sorts of things. And we do have a host of integrations as well. So kind of looking at the system here, we're going to do kind of a quick walkthrough, basic general overview of what's out here. As we look at the Aladtec space, this is a web-based system, so 100% cloud-based, hosted on Amazon Web Service. And there is both a full site version and a mobile optimized version that can be viewed on cell phones or tablets. So any device with internet access and browser capability will have 24/7 real-time access. In either view, you're going to be greeted with dashboards that'll show you relevant information to yourself. If you're one of those lucky folks that's handling scheduling, opportunities to do things like review requests from your staff are going to be out here, where we can leverage approvals or denials to auto update your schedules and update your staff on the outcome. So that could be trades, that could be signups for open shifts, people requesting time off, extra hours. So when we have those situations where folks are held over, they can request some extra time be added to the schedule. You'll also be able to leverage things like certification and license tracking in the system. So as things are nearing expiration or actually do lapse, there's notification tools for yourself and employees with clear visibility to what's actually lapsing and when it lapsed. You even have the option to tether scheduling implications to that. So warnings or hard stops for schedulers. As Nancy mentioned, we do have a member database out here. This is going to allow you to collect information on your staff. We are looking at all false information. So this is just some mock-up fake data. But this will be the space that all of your employee and personnel data can live. So whether that's basic information like titles, maybe emergency contact information, or those certifications and licenses, you can look at that data, you can access this data, and this is printable or exportable. So this can act as a reporting mechanism on your staff. You'll also have easy access to do things like add folks to your system or inactivate folks. And there's mass messaging back here. So as we're going through and reviewing some information on our staff, or maybe trying to target a specific subgroup of the staff, we'll actually have the option to mass message via email, text, or both right out of this space. Now, the system is going to come with a host of different options. Each profile is going to actually be configurable, so you can define what's going to live in here and be for fields that you want to collect data on. And each profile will give folks the ability to set notification preferences. So they'll have the ability to come in and say how they want to get those notifications. But those coveted things that should be an admin level control, like your coverage alerts or expiration data, are admin control. We can make sure that those go to people and they don't turn those off on you. You can even take it a step further and say, for example, receive external notifications when your staff are taking actions in the system. Hey, send me a text if my people sign up for a shift, or maybe send me an email if somebody requests some time off. You'll have complete control over the volume and quantity of messages that come out of the system, and you'll be able to receive those in a way that works best for you. You can leverage things like shift reminders, so the system will give you updates. And our folks that are administrators will have complete control over access and where people can be scheduled. So this is a key takeaway for this system. You're going to have granular control to decide which schedules and positions your staff are qualified to work in. So no one ever ends up signing up for shifts they're not qualified for, or trading out of shifts or into shifts that they shouldn't be able to. That's going to be your support mechanism to make sure that folks are being scheduled appropriately. Now, taking a peek at the schedules themselves, we do have several different schedule views in the system. The monthly calendar view is probably our most prominent one used by most customers, but you've got a host of options. So we can look at what I designate as a longer range of time, lower degree of detail view, like the monthly calendar view. Or you're going to always have the ability to pivot between different views. So things like a daily summary view, that's going to feel like a roster. So for my fire folks out there who are maybe staffing to apparatuses, this is a great way to get that daily roster together that you're used to using. Or maybe it's something like a weekly shift view where you can look at across the schedule for the entire course of the week. Or if you're leveraging our payroll module, maybe that's a breakdown of just your biweekly pay period. You're going to have the ability to default these to load to whichever one ultimately suits you best. And every view in this system, and in fact, most areas of this system, are going to give you filtering and editing options. So anywhere we see this, we can change what we're looking at. So if you have permissions to everything and you don't need to see everything, you can turn off and on individual items that you're interested in viewing, or even apply filters. Now, as we look at our schedule here, you're going to see lots of icons and different things going on here. There's going to be things like approved requests from your staff. So when we talk about those cumbersome workflows, maybe you're one of those agencies that's getting bombarded with paper requests for leave or trades. Those are all going to initiate right through the system, and your staff is going to be leveraged to help with those processes. You'll have that approval opportunity if you want it. And you'll have the option to view anything and approve items right from your calendar view. So whether you're looking at a schedule, or you're on your dashboard, or you're in mobile, you're going to have the ability to process these requests in a way that feels comfortable to you. When we start to have folks do things like trade shifts, the system will swap them for you. There's going to be clear indicators so that we always know what was traded shifts. We can see on this particular day that Leslie's working for me. And we can always open and see details of all these items. So transparency is paramount here. There will be dates and timestamps in a log of anything that happens in this system. So nothing ever gets moved, adjusted, or modified without a track record. We have some different tools throughout the system to help maintain and manage maybe some of those interdepartmental rules or policies. So things like staffing limits or fatigue rules. You're going to have the ability to leverage things like minimum staffing requirements. Between certain times, you have to have certain numbers of people. You can even stretch that further and say, hey, I need to have 3 people during this time frame, but at least one of them has to have a specific license or certification. So you can get the right quantity and types of people and have the system flag your schedules when you're in violation of that limit. We'll have the ability to set up things in the back end of the system to monitor fatigue rules, as I mentioned. So if we want to be mindful of people being scheduled past a certain number of hours in a row, if you want to get warnings at thresholds in a certain time frame, maybe that's hours that are going to breach overtime in a week. Or if you want to build in safety breaks between shifts, make sure people have a rest period. Those can all be built into the logic of the system. So as a scheduler, you have tools in your toolbox to make sure you're making informed scheduling choices. Now, on those days that we do have open shifts in the Aladtec system, those are clearly visible. So if we do need to do something like find some coverage, you're going to have the ability to page that out. And this is one of the biggest things that is advantageous to most of the customers I work with. You will have the ability to click out on any open shift, and the system's going to point back to those member database qualifications to let you know, hey, you can send this to everybody that's qualified who's actually available. You can also start to target different groups. So if you have different work groups in your system and you want to start with your part-timers before you result in overtime for your full-timers, you can pick different groups or even individuals to post out these coverage alerts to, so that the staff will get a notification letting them know that there's an opening on the schedule that they can go into Aladtec and sign up for. And that can go email, text, or both. We also have the ability to leverage what we call staggered notifications in Aladtec. So if you're one of those agencies that does have a list where we're offering shifts one at a time to different groups of people, maybe that's one of those rotational overtime lists, you have the ability to leverage a staggered coverage alert to sort people into different groups. So maybe it's looking at hire date and sorting those people ascending, most senior to least senior, or total number of hours in a time frame. Instead of everybody getting one notification at the same time, you can send this out to one person at a time and have the system automatically roll through that list of people until your shift is filled. Now, we are going to have the ability in the system to do things like leverage pattern-based scheduling. That's something we hear from almost everybody we talk to. So if you're doing a Pitman with every other weekend off, or you're doing a 24/48 or a 48/96, or we've got Kelly days or things like that going on, there is a pattern-based scheduling portion of the system that will allow you to place people on schedules in patterns. So it'll be as easy as designating staff with the schedule and position we're going to drop them into. And you can draw out weekly patterns, or if you have one of those common presets, you can set those patterns and run those for up to 2 years at a time. If we're doing something like maybe one of our Pitman type rotations, you're going to have the ability to lay out a 2-week pattern and have the system repeat that over and over again for up to that 2-year time frame. So those base schedules get populated easily, and then we're left to manage just the day-to-day changes that happen. When those do come up, you're going to have the ability to edit the schedule. We can do things like go through and approve our leave, and maybe that creates a gap in the schedule. We'll see that those changes leave an opening that we can fill. We can also go look at opportunities where we've got some signups, and maybe we want some extra tools in our toolbox to guide those decisions. You'll be able to open your hourly editor and view your schedule in that 24-hour format. The lower half of your screen will show you everything you need to know about the people that could potentially go into that spot. So we're seeing all the EMTs in this scenario and whether they've signed up, or maybe they've used our passive availability tool to indicate they're available and open to work. Or maybe they're already scheduled. You've got a quick visual breakdown on your staff. And as you go through and do things like approve people to the schedule, they're going to populate and clear any unneeded shifts and signups. So you only ever have to process what you need to fill your day. You're even going to have the ability to leverage different tools to help guide your decision-making processes. So whether that's looking at total hours or maybe people's hire dates, you can pull in extra data points and use that to help guide your decisions. We can apply easy codes to shifts. So if we do want to track these as different hours, you're going to have that mechanism to collect that data. And you'll have the ability to do things like put people out on leave. So when those folks call in sick, we can take them off the schedule. But ultimately, this whole thing is drag and drop. So as we click between positions, the lower half of your screen updates to just those people qualified for that AEMT spot. And you're going to have the ability to drag people onto the schedule and adjust that time forward and backward as you need to. You even have the ability to pull up multiple schedules. So if you have maybe some overstaffing in one spot, some understaffing in another, you're going to have the ability to drag and drop people between schedules. And we can note that it's going to stop you from dropping people in places that you shouldn't be putting them. Now, from a staff perspective, your staff is going to be able to interact with their own schedules. They will be doing this in mobile most of the time. That's where our folks tend to live. So they will be able to come in and look at their own My Schedule page, and they're going to have the ability to take action against schedules. So whether that's doing things like requesting a trade and following the rules built into the system, or submitting time off, the system's going to guide them through easy processes. And that includes helping them identify who to find to cover their shifts. So that logistical back and forth becomes a task of staff. And they'll be able to see open shifts too. So if we need to come through and sign up for some shifts, that's absolutely an option here as well. Now, kind of moving over to the form side of the system, this is probably the second biggest thing that this system is utilized for on a regular basis. My favorite section, I think it's the greatest thing ever, but there is actually a library inside of the system that is over 200 different forms that came from Aladtec customers. So these came directly from public safety folks, and they said, this is what we're using in this system every day. So our support team worked really, really hard for a good long while, and we compiled all of these into one place for you guys to be able to use. So whether that's medical supply lists, onboarding forms, health screening, human resources, everyone's favorite vehicle checks. So maybe it's engine checklists or police cruiser checklists. You can pull up a form that someone else started and make it your own. These are all editable. So you can add and remove fields, use drag and drop to move items around, or leverage a toolbox to add new fields and make these your own. These also carry a ton of additional power. So when we think about those binders of paper that are sitting on a shelf somewhere, this takes those paper processes, digitizes them, gives your staff 24/7 access from any device to fill these out, and it gives you reporting and notification capacity. So every single one of these will give you complete control over who's allowed to fill these things out. Is it specific individuals or just groups of folks? Control over reports or modifications. Maybe you have something that you want a supervisor to be able to come in and modify after staff fills it out and add a secondary signature. You can set it up that way. You can even leverage notification off of this via email, text, or both. So, hey, if this form gets turned in, send a notification to an individual or specific group. Or in the event that, let's say, for example, our brake lights are out on the engine, if somebody indicates that those aren't operational, a specific notification could go out to someone. There's lots of different ways to leverage this to help with improving communication. It could be ordering demands, so things that are out of stock and letting someone in charge of ordering know. There's even, as part of our payroll module, the opportunity to leverage a digital timesheet in the system, where you can actually have the system pull in the hours from the schedule and allow staff to validate if their hours are correct or not. So you've got a great accountability tool to make sure that staff are taking charge and monitoring their time just as you guys are. Now, as that form data is fantastic, there's lots of cool options there. We can build that from scratch. The even better part is that every single one of these fields becomes a reportable field for you. So you will have corresponding reports for any form, and that's going to give you complete control over every single data point contained in those forms. So when you think about audits, or you think about maybe grievances, if there's a form that's beneficial to you, you will have the ability to run this for a time frame appropriate to the duration of time you need to look for. And you're going to have the ability to get that data out of the system. So you'll have that same filter and edit function. You can turn items off and on, and you're going to be able to get this data out quick whenever you need it. Now, there are other reports in the system. So traditionally, we're talking hours type reports, but you will be able to do things like look at individual member reports. This is the one report by default that your staff can see on themselves. And it's going to provide breakdowns of things like, what are their scheduled shifts in the time frame I look at? Did they have extra hours? Are they submitting availability to me? This is that great record of everything that's going on with an individual person. And as someone with scheduling authority, you're going to have the ability to flip between your staff and see everything relevant to individual folks. You'll be able to leverage things like scheduled summary reports. So this will give you breakdowns of the scheduled hours on the system. So whether that's actual scheduled hours, or are people submitting availability to you, and how many hours are they providing you in a time frame? You can even turn on different cues here and look for things like, maybe time off hours or time types that people are using, so that you can see how that time is being split over different ranges. And this, again, is going to be exportable and printable. There's going to be opportunities for scheduled time reports. So that line by line detail of every shift relevant to folks is going to be out here. We can view these things as subtotaled or non-subtotaled. We can include time off or extra hours, but this one's a real powerhouse when it comes to being able to isolate specific time types or hours specific to certain schedules or positions. If you're one of those folks that's monitoring things like people acting out of rank, maybe overtime that is voluntary versus mandatory, and those are being tracked with different codes, this report's going to give you the ability to isolate just the codes you want to see for the time frame you're interested in and give you a line-by-line breakdown of that information if you need it. And as part of our payroll module, there is also an additional payroll report. So this is going to have the ability to give you line-by-line detail. It can be set up to pull scheduled time, or if you're leveraging our time clock punches. And you're going to have some additional controls to this particular report to allow you to customize the data that you need to have in this report. This one also carries the ability to do things like move columns around. Most of these reports are going to give you the opportunity to pull in member database information. So maybe there's an employee ID number or something of the like that you want to pull in from a profile. You can pull in extra fields and add that as part of your report. And this becomes a CSV export file that can be leveraged for import export. It can be dropped through custom templates so that it can be imported into different payroll products. So this is typically that key source of information that ends up going to those folks that manage payroll. There'll be some other reports out here. The things that are most common that I see will be things like trade hours reports, where the system will actually give you a record of all the folks that are trading back and forth, and if they're doing that equitably. So if we want to keep an eye on how many people are giving up shifts versus accepting shifts, we can see that information. And there's also a system log, as I mentioned earlier. We don't get to do anything in Aladtec without a track record. So if somebody deletes someone off a schedule or approves something they shouldn't, you're going to have a complete record, and it's not just a record, it's full details. You can see exactly what was done. And the last thing I wanted to show you guys, just to give a little bit of visibility, we do have lots of additional other features. That's kind of your high point there. One of the things to draw attention to is the integrations that we do have available as part of this product. So we do what we do really well, and we stay in scheduling. Well, we make partners with companies that are helping you guys with other parts of your business. So we do provide open API for other systems to be able to pull data from Aladtec. We also maintain partnerships with some of the most common additional software products that we hear from our customer base. So if you're using some of these incident reporting softwares, your Aladtec schedule can be populated over into these other systems to prevent some redundant entry. Save you some time, reduce some of those administrative tasks, make sure you're not duplicating efforts that are already being managed somewhere else. All right. Nancy, do we have any questions in the Q&A?
Yes, I was able to get them answered. I do have a couple I thought I'd hold excuse me, for now for you.
Sure.
One person had wanted to know if there was a way to, when they're putting people on the schedule, if you can limit the hours worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be the ability to leverage what we call work limits. So if we want to keep people under, let's say, a certain number of hours in a row, or if you want to keep them under a certain number of hours in a 24-hour window or a week or a month, we can apply work limits, and those come with flexible options for how they respond. So whether that's just something that provides a passive warning to the employee and the scheduler, or maybe it's you want one extra click as a scheduler to say, yeah, I see it, but this time I have to be able to bypass this, or a hard stop, you're going to have the option to decide what that work limit is, and it can be different for different groups of people.
Perfect. And then the other question had to do about the time off, submitting time off, and if it tracks, you know, how many hours are accrued, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a part of our payroll module, we do have the ability to set up automatic accruals inside the system, where you can do things like create profiles for years of service. that dictates maybe the rate that that time accrues. And that time will then drop into banks and be automatically deducted when you approve requests. So if someone does happen to request some vacation time and you have accruals turned on, you will actually see their balance, the cost of the request, and the ending balance as the employee and as the supervisor or scheduler. So you're making informed decisions as to whether or not people have the hours for that request.
Perfect. Thanks, Kelsey. And I guess next steps is how do they get a hold of you if they have more questions or want a trial?
Yeah, so we do offer tailored demonstrations if you want to have a walkthrough with a solutions consultant like myself and talk through some of your more specific agency needs. You do have the ability to do that from the website. You can also contact support@aladtec.com or call in, and they'll get you connected with the account executive for your area, and we'll get you working with a team to start going through and assessing your needs and making sure that we have a great solution for everything that you've got going on.
Great. And I do have 2 more questions that came through. I thought I'd ask them. Let's ask them of you.
Sure.
One person just wants to know, because the examples that you showed were EMS based,
Mhm.
and are there examples of police based schedules out there?
Absolutely. Yep, we do have systems that can be shown for these tailored demonstrations that are police-based or fire-based or EMS-based. The website itself does kind of go over some of the different options for the different industries. So aladtec.tcpsoftware.com has a ton of different resources out there where you can look at information for law enforcement agencies. You can hear it word of mouth from some of our customers, or perhaps it's fire. There's going to be information industry specific. And as we go through that tailor process for you, we do have the ability to make sure that you see something for your industry specifically.
Perfect. And then the last question is, they kind of want to know the pricing for a department that might be of like 40 people. How does the pricing work?
Yeah, so it is a per member per month charge on an annual basis. So we, as part of that tailored demonstration experience, we talk through what your specific needs are, how many folks we're talking about leveraging in the system, and we help you determine what tier or package for functionality you fall into. So different tiers are going to provide different benefits, and there will be a cost associated per member per month for the appropriate tier. So the plans are available on the website. You can take a look at the tiers and see what functions are out there. Middle of the road is typically where we see people fall into our professional package. That really gives you some of the great functions like forms and those sorts of things.
Great. Thanks, Kelsey.
You bet.
I think that does it for our questions and answers section. So I appreciate everybody's time today. We hope you all have a great day. And as I mentioned earlier, we will send out a webinar recording of this. So you'll be getting that in your email as well. If not today, probably tomorrow. And thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.